into the actual records, and by then Laserdiscs were no longer being made. So we do have to do things a little bit more quickly. One of the advantages of this linked format is that it is more flexible. It allows you to add into it without disrupting the entire ecology of the data format. And I could explain that to you in a more technical sense if you want it. We can draw pictures. I can only explain it as a picture. But this is a more flexible format. It allows you to build your data incrementally. You don't have to have everything there in order to put your data out on the web. In the same way that when the web first existed, there were maybe 20 or 40 or 500 documents on it, and anyone could add in more documents, and it builds incrementally without breaking. Linked data builds incrementally without breaking so that we can add in new data. It allows you to add more concepts into your data as well. One of the problems that we have in libraries is we have this sort of central basic core of metadata, but we have a lot of specialized communities. And either we try to create something that is one size fits all, which never works, or those specialist communities have to go out and create their own formats, and then we aren't compatible. With this linked data format, we can have that core, and the specialist communities can extend out as much as they need to meet their own needs, and still be compatible with this core that we have. And this is one of the reasons why I think we need to take RDA and start looking at it as a core with things building off of it rather than as a whole. Because when we try to meet everyone's needs, as we did with ACR, as we have with RDA, we build something that is so huge and awkward that no one wants to deal with it. I think we can make it usable by allowing people to make selections. So expressing library data as linked data is not rocket science. And most of the efforts that are starting, and there are a number, a British library has put out the British National Bibliography as linked data. A number of, I think the Swedish National Library has put out their entire catalog as linked data. A lot of German libraries have put out, even some small ones it was like a consortium, have put out their data as linked data. It can be done. We can take current library data and put it out as linked data. And the question is that really what we want to do? So, okay, I obviously lost my place. For those of you who are curious about what linked data might allow us to do in terms of catalogs, we do not have a library catalog using linked data, but there is something called the Open Library that was developed by the Internet Archive. And they developed it using library data. They started with the Library of Congress file. They got data from other libraries. The thing that I really like about it is that it allows you to provide different views. If you search on an author, you don't just get a list of works, you get a page for the author. The page for the author brings in biographical information, either from the publisher or from Wikipedia. The page for the author can also tell you what other things most link to that author. So you are providing a context for the user. If you go to a work, you get a page for the work. Below it, you see all of the different, what we would call manifestations, and most people call editions. Again, you can bring in blurbs from publishers and that type of thing. If you go to a subject, you get a page for the subject. And the page for the subject can have a timeline showing when works about that subject were published. Again, it shows what are the other subjects that are most related to this subject, who are the authors, and who are the prominent publishers. So this more flexible data allows you, it's very much like a topic map. It allows you to pick up different views, and it also allows you to bring in information from the outside. So you can provide the user with something a lot richer than just looking at a library catalog record. Now, library catalog records, I spent a lot of time processing MARC records in my job at the University of California when we created a union catalog. And so I got to the point, which probably, and you're at that point, where this type of thing looks familiar to me. If I see XII, 356P, 23CM, I know what that means. I can almost guarantee you that you could probably less than 1% of our users have any idea what that means. I love the 23CM. I think we can blame it on Melville Dewey. We still have not gone metric in the United States. The only thing that gets measured metrically, as far as I know, in the entire country is the height of a book in library catalogs. And the best part about that is that that's supposed to tell you what shelf it can go on, what size shelf. Our shelves are measured in inches, right? Totally useless. Things like uniform titles, no one has any idea what those are about. I was at a meeting and I was invited to come and spend 1 hour explaining library data to 6 people who work with the W3C and whose names are on those W3C standards documents, right? So this was a fairly high-end group of people. And I was using examples like this to talk about library data, to talk about transcribed versus authority controlled and da-da-da-da-da. And at the end, one of them says to me, but what does that XII mean? And these 6 people, all with PhDs, who undoubtedly used the library quite a bit, never understood what this meant. So I have come to see library catalog data as being like the secret language of twins. It's just that there's a lot of us twins, right? No one else knows what it means but us. And yet this is the face. This is what we consider our face to the users. And I'm thinking we might want to reconsider that a little bit. And especially because I feel that we have something that is so valuable and yet so ignored. And that is that we have controlled subject headings and classification schemes that are incredibly rich. The fact that if you look at the kind of context that a classification scheme gives you, it is beyond anything else that you can find to help you discover things on the internet. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, well, why should we bother with classification in this day and age? Everyone just does keyword searching, and keyword searching is just fine. So I want to take a look for a moment at keyword searching and its nature. If you talk about discovery, what is discovery? Many people would say you type something into this blank and you get discovery. And I say, no, that's not it. Why do folks like Yahoo and Google and Bing do keyword searching rather than some kind of categorization? They do it because it's easy. They do it because it's mechanical. They do it because it really isn't intellectual at all. You are matching a string in a query to a string in a document. Nothing could be less knowledge-based than that. And even though folks like Google will do, did you mean and all of that's done by algorithms. If you type in a word wrong, what they've done is they have analyzed that pattern of letters and decided that based on that pattern, they have an algorithm that says, oh, I bet it was supposed to be this word. With keyword searching, if you pull something up, you can't say broader or narrower. You can't say, give me something else like this. There's no classification, there are no categories around anything. Users love that plain search box, but in fact, it's not freedom. It's not freedom, it is a real constraint, and it's a constraint because it is up to the user to take a complex information query and turn it into a couple of terms that you can type into that box and get an answer. The machine is not doing anything intelligent. All of the intelligence is on the part of the user. And so a lot depends on the skills of the user in turning things into that. Now the fact is, and I have had this said to me often by college students, yes, but I always get something, which then, makes me want to, hand them a piece of, dried liver and say you wanted lunch, but, here's something. They wouldn't accept that, but they accept it when it's information. And of course, especially as some of us age a bit, as Elaine Svenonius says, not everybody is good at distilling things down and figuring out what to put in that search box. So what actually works in terms of keyword searching? What is it good for? Because it is good for some things. It is great for nouns, especially proper nouns. If you have the name of someone, if you have the name of a company, if you have the name of an organization, you're home free. If you have a name of something like Python, programming language, you'll pull up a lot of good stuff. Titles of books, type in Moby Dick, you'll get, a page about Moby Dick. What it doesn't work for is you can't search for concepts. You can't search for concepts, you can't navigate conceptually. It's terrible if the thing you're searching for uses common terms, and I have an awful time when I'm searching both for using the word library or the word catalog. The word library is used a lot in programming. So if I type in something in library, I'm going to end up in the Python library, Ruby library. I'm going to end up inside this thing called GitHub that has open source software in it. You can't ask specific questions. You can't go to this and type in, when did Melville write Moby Dick? As a matter of fact, if you do that, Google turns it into when, did, and just searches for those terms. It doesn't understand a question. With linked data, and I did this off of the Open Library catalog, this is just a Yahoo pipe, you can actually ask that kind of question and get an answer, 1854 or whatever it is. This is the kind of thing that Wolfram Alpha is trying to do, but sometimes users have complex questions. They don't want to just get any old web page about Moby Dick. They have a specific question. So I don't know if you've ever, probably it happens with you as well, definitely when I search the net at home, almost every search I do, a Wikipedia page or two is toward the top. Why is that the case? That's the case because Wikipedia is organized information. It is the thing that Wikipedia has that Google or the web does not have, and people love it. And people find it very useful. You go to a Wikipedia page, it tells you about related pages, it moves you up to broader, it pulls you down to narrower, it sends you other places where you can get more information, it disambiguates your term for you. This tells me that there is a great need for organized information out there, and it's not going to be provided by the Googles. We could, of course, provide some of it with library data. The other thing is that keyword searching relies on human foibles, and I find it really interesting. We tend to ignore the bad matches and only remember the good ones. I was looking through my file of where I keep images that I have stored away to use in presentations, and I found this, and I have no memory of this at all. No memory, but at the time that it happened, I thought it was worth grabbing a screenshot. I did a result for online printing, and I got an entire set of printing calculators. Not at all what I was looking for. I have forgotten it because we tend to forget the things that didn't help us. And whenever you get a result from one of these search engines, you're using your human intelligence to sort through that and decide what's good and what isn't. So I have a number of different analogies I use for keyword searching. One of them is dumpster diving for information, you know, that you dive into the trash can and you're just hoping to find that one wrapped sandwich that is still good. The other one is dynamite fishing. I don't know if they do that here in New Zealand, but where you throw the dynamite into a pond and then everything just shoots out and then you pick through and get what you want. To me, that is what keyword searching is. That there is no intelligence in Google. Google basically has all of the information organization and intelligence of a phone book. It is merely a phone book for the internet. Now, some people I know really love doing tagging. I'm not against tagging, but again, tagging isn't knowledge organization. This is a section of the tags from library thing. It is all over the place. David Weinberger, who wrote Everything is Miscellaneous, says, you know, what difference does it make if you go to Flickr and you type in San Francisco, and you're thinking San Francisco, California, but you get, you know, San Francisco, Chile, San Francisco, Uruguay, San Francisco, Spain. It doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter if you don't understand what you've received, and if you happen to be a Harvard professor, you can sort through that rather quickly. But if you're an 8-year-old, knowing that your family is going on vacation, this could be very confusing and disturbing. And so my response is that everything might be miscellaneous, but it's also time consuming and damned annoying at the same time. So miscellany has its role, but it puts a lot of burden on the user. So what do we have? What do we in libraries have that we can provide to this messy environment out there? Well, we have classification schemes. Unfortunately, we have gotten into the habit of seeing them only as a single place to put an item on the shelf. And I can tell you that although it may help users browse on the shelf, users do not understand what those numbers mean. They really don't. In a new environment, and the classification schemes that we developed in the past were in an analog world where we could not really create good navigation for users. Those classification schemes, if we take another look at them today, could turn out to be very rich discovery and wandering through environments where people talk about serendipity. Serendipity isn't random. Serendipity actually is a very directed, smart, knowledge-based way of finding things. And we could create some wonderful serendipity if we would turn some of our computing energy into making those classifications usable. We no longer need to put only one on a record. The book can only go in one place, but there's no reason why there couldn't be multiple classification schemes. The same with subject headings. Most of our subject thesauri have at least some navigation. We aren't using that navigation. We could develop a way to use that navigation. So my bottom line here is that we need to change our concept of what the library catalog is. We really need to empty our heads and start over. Yes, we're going to need an inventory of what the library owns. When you walk into a store, you are not handed their inventory list as a way to find things. We will need to be able to connect that inventory to circulation. That's fine. But we should see our catalog as a discovery system, and as a discovery system that isn't closed and only looking at our catalog, but that is open and can reach out to the users where they are, because our users aren't in the library catalog. The OCLC report of a few years ago showed that only 2% of users begin their discovery in the library catalog, 2%. Everybody else discovers things elsewhere and then goes to the library to see if the library has it. Well, we need to be in that elsewhere. We can't expect users to come to us. We have to go to users. We have to see this connection with the outside world. And to do that, we have to be willing to free our data and let other people use it. We can't hang on to our data and protect it and still be part of this open environment. If we want to make use of other people's data, we have to let people make use of our data. And I think that when we present our data well, as we have, for example, with VIAF, others come to appreciate the work that we have done, because it's finally in a format that they can understand it. It's in a strange technology format, but that's what people can understand, and that's what works. Whatever we do, I think we need to focus on knowledge organization. I'm a bit, this will anger some people, but I'm a bit annoyed that we've just spent the last 10 or 15 years rewriting our cataloging rules, and we haven't talked about classification or subject access hardly at all. We haven't talked about how we can help users find things conceptually. We need to move back to that. That is our strength. Other people have bibliographic information. Ours may be the best, but other people have it. And finding something by author or by title is not the most exciting thing that a learner can do. And classification also is a great learning tool, because because we have to assume that if people are out there seeking, it's because they don't have the information. If you already have the information, sure, you can find it, but we have to address the seekers who need to learn. I want to just give you a couple of ways that you can follow up on this. There is not a single centralized place where you can follow everything going on in the library world and the semantic web world that relates to us. That may build up, but right now it's a bit scattered. The linked library data group that the World Wide Web Consortium developed and whose report is out does have a discussion list where a lot of good discussion takes place. There was a meeting in San Francisco called Linked Open Data Libraries, Archives, and Museums that was then taken to Washington, D.C. And by the way, it is happening again here in Wellington on the 1st of December, following up on the National Digital Forum. Unfortunately, it's already full. They only had they had funding from only a small number of places. Is there anybody here who's signed up for that? Yay, okay, good. Because open is in its name, and I was at the one in San Francisco, you probably will be able to find out who all is attending, and there will be reports back out from it. It will be a working meeting where people talk about what can we do. So this could be the beginning spark for what we call LODLAM in New Zealand. There is a place called the Data Hub where all data sets that are being released, that people try to gather it together so that there are a list of all the data sets that you can look at if you're a techie and you're actually trying to find data to work with. And the W3C group, in its final report, also did a number of lists of resources and things that, various other things that you can connect up to. And on my presentation site, you notice I didn't give you many URLs in here because I just don't think people have time to write them down. On my presentation site, I put my presentations, but at the top, I have a file called links I often put into presentations. And you can go in there and I have links to all of these sites that I've referred to. There are examples of what bibliographic records might look like in this new format, if you want to take a look at that, even some suggested readings and other things like that. And I'll go through this presentation and make sure there isn't something that I missed putting in there. And one other thing I should mention that see, I said don't let me forget that. Breaking news this morning during the first keynote, well, I was paying attention, but I also got an email that said that the Library of Congress has just released its report on the future of bibliographic control. otherwise known as the replacement for MARC. So there is now a report out. It is very brief, but the Library of Congress has committed to developing a replacement for MARC, and it is going to be in semantic web format. So we're there, folks. And now I believe we have a minute or two for questions. Thank you.
We've got about 2 minutes for questions, if anyone...
Yeah, if you have questions, or as I say, I am around. If there are people who want to talk more about detail or whatever, I'm available. I'm here through the end of the conference. And this is the thing I like to talk about the most, so you, you almost can't stop me. Anybody have a question? Do people need reviving? I mean, did we get to the CPR level in this? Was it too much? Okay. I always wonder if I haven't sort of killed the audience. Okay, well, feel free to catch me and ask me questions. If there are a group of people that want to sit down for some time and, delve into some more of this, I'm quite happy to do that. While I'm here, I also want to meet you and the people who are interested in this, so you'd be doing me a favor. Thank you.
I'd just like to wrap up by thanking Karen for what I knew was going to be a challenging, thought-provoking and fascinating question. And those of you who know me and know me as a dyed-in-the-wool cataloguer, I'm just so excited about the possibilities of the semantic web and the possibilities that are available for us as cataloguers to really actually reach the people who we try to reach in the work that we do. So thank you, Karen, on behalf of...
There's an old Māori saying which goes, kua ki te puku ka ora te ngākau. When the belly is full, the heart rises, so we can all help keep the conference bubbling along simply by going and having lunch. Thank you. One more thing.